So just sort of a bit of an introduction as well to sort of the components of data capture and sort of everything you're going to need to kind of get them up and running. So the first thing you need to do is create your data capture smart block using one of the templates that's provided within the system. So we have a load of templates that are available to you. We then can configure the layout, sort of the look and feel of the data capture. We can edit the HTML to sort of get it onto how your brand looks. And then also we can configure the behavior of the data capture. So for example, we want it to trigger on exit intent, do we want it to be sort of triggering on a fixed point in time, and how often do we want this to be sort of showing up to different people. Then finally, what we need to do is we need to create a custom signal to direct the information from the data capture to then go into your ESP. A little bit of a bonus as well, we can use A/B tests or multi-arm bandit to test and optimize your data capture forms. So we could try maybe using some different messaging, we could try different amounts of fields and things like that that can really sort of start to see how your customers interact with your data captures on your site. Any questions around that? Nice. So then, I'm going to hop into the system and we're going to get through building some data capture forms. Feel free at any point as well to interrupt me if you need some sort of extra help or any questions at all. So last week we did cover this as well, but sort of some things I like to signpost people to at the start. We got the question mark up in the top left-hand corner. It will highlight the page you're on and give you some great documentation, including the tactics library, which Daisy was sort of in charge of implementing. It's absolutely brilliant. So give it a look. We then also have a load of videos here, which will change dependent on what page you're on, and it will be able to sort of give you a nice step-by-step how-to video on exactly what you need to do. We also have the details for our support team here. If you have any questions or anything like that, send an email to support@freshrelevance.com and then they can get back to you as soon as they can. So the first stage of data capture is going ahead and getting a template chosen and getting it all set up. So we're going to navigate to the left-hand side of the screen. We're going to drop down content. I'm going to go on to smart blocks. And then we have all of our options along the top, and then we have data capture just here. We're then going to create a brand new data capture form, and then we can get started with building it. So there are a couple of options here. I'm going to go with the sort of more the older version, which sort of I'm used to. However, there is a new version, so feel free to try it out. It's currently in beta, but let us know what you think about it and give it a go. So I'm going to choose, yes, Daisy.
I've got a question quickly for Georgia. That popover, the back in stock element you were talking about.
Yeah.
Which template here were you using? Do you know?
So I kind of just originally thought the first one, it's the data capture popover with custom signal option. So I created that one because I had the email one. And I originally just kind of thought that, you do that and you could create, because I read a help guide that said you can have a static data capture form rather than it popping up. So I just was like, well, okay, so I'll make that one. And then it wasn't as simple as that.
Yeah, I can imagine, especially when you have to dive into codes. And
yeah.
So this last one here, the fixed position data capture bar,
Yeah.
that might be a better place to get started. So it still has that email field, and then you could customize it so it's not full width and then place it.
Okay.
And
so
I
can
do
you place
know
that anywhere on the page?
I believe so, but in our new version, I know that is definitely the case. So let me follow that one up for you.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry, Will.
That's all good. Thank you for sort of interjecting there. Cool. So we've got a few options here that we can choose. So I'm just going to go with a simple data capture popover with custom signal option here. And I'm going to click on create. I also just saw Sarah Valen joined. Good to see you again.
Nice to see you, Will.
Cool. So we have the layout tab here, and this is where we can start to edit the look and feel of our data capture form. So what we could do to begin with is I'm just going to sort of signpost to where the HTML sits. If you have people in-house that are familiar with how to use HTML and how to edit sort of the look and feel of things within HTML, then you can go ahead and give this to them for them to edit. If not, we have professional services in-house that for a cost can sort of get a brief and then they can configure it to exactly what you'll need. So everything's there for you to use with your HTML. We also have some basic options here that we can sort of toggle about with. For example, on the heading text, we can maybe change up messaging. For example, we can say, let us know who you are. We can also change the color and some various other bits like the font size and the type of font as well. A fun thing that I learned the other day was how many fonts we have available in Fresh Relevance. If I go ahead and open that up here, you can see there are quite a few on this page. There's 83 different pages available to you. So there's plenty there for you to sort of have a look at and use within Fresh Relevance. We then go on to the Properties tab, and what we could do on the Properties tab is give the smart block a name. So I can give it, for example, WD Data Capture, and that will rename it just so we can keep it nice and organized. I also have the option to add what we call tags. This is one type of tag that we'll see in Fresh Relevance, which is sort of an option to kind of start to put things into a bit more orderly fashion. So, for example, I could give this a tag of Data Capture. And I could maybe say this for my newsletter, just so that I'm a bit more organized with how I'm doing things. We also have the option for a redirect URL. So maybe you want to redirect this data capture to a different site or a different page within your site. You can put a link in here and it will redirect that to that area. Merge parameters as well come in, where we can bring in some factors that are outside of Fresh Relevance. One example would be on, for example, banners. We can start to sort of bring in name personalization to things, or some other sort of options like that. But I wouldn't worry about it too much for this. We also have the option to add your campaign track codes for Google Analytics, so we can map it all in and get all that data into Google Analytics for you. Down the bottom of the screen, we also have our sort of template, just so that we can see exactly what it looks like on a preview. Finally, the most important tab really is the behavior tab. This is where we can start to redirect things and we can configure it in different ways. So the top option here, we have the minimum time before the data capture displays. So essentially on this one, we're saying every 90 days, it's got to be at least 90 days before we show it to this person again. We also have the minimum time before showing a data capture. So essentially this will be how long we have to wait before we show a data capture to someone. You know, it can be a little bit annoying sometimes seeing a data capture right as soon as you enter a website. So we have that option there. We also have the option to show a data capture after a fixed period in time. So let's say after 10 minutes, we want to show someone a data capture. We'll put in 600 there. So 600 seconds will 100% show a data capture form then. We also have this option down here, which is exit intent. So essentially what this is doing is it will show it on exit intent. What we define as exit intent is when someone starts to drag their mouse to the top right of the screen where the cross is. Once that's there, it will start to trigger it and it will go off and it will see the data capture form. Any questions on that bit? Well, all making sense so far?
Yeah.
Lovely stuff. So what we can also do is we can have the delay before the exit intent appears. So this is sort of how long it takes before it fades in, I'm pretty sure. But essentially what we can do is we can start to sort of test that about and change up how that's configured. Finally, down here, this is where it gets sort of redirected to. So the form destination will be, on this one, we're going to have it to a custom signal, and then we're going to give it a name. We're not going to configure this field just for now, but we'll need to come back to it later on. We also have the option to have the form action URL there as well. So now you've got this all configured, we can go ahead and press on publish and use to put it into a slot. Does everyone know the relationship between the smart block and the slot? Cool, everyone's familiar. So what I'm going to do is click on publish and use, and then I'm going to look at deploying this into a slot. This will obviously be for web personalization. You're not going to have a data capture within an email. So we're going to click on that, and we will use the new smart block in a new slot. It's already given in the slot a name, which is WD Data Capture, and then it's also got the unique reference that's also been populated as well. The tags have also come through as well for us. We then have the option to show to different people within the control group. So I'm going to show this data capture to absolutely everyone that comes onto the website, and then I'm going to press on save, and that has been configured for us. So now we've got the data capture ready to go onto the website, but now we need to make the signal to send it back. We can also this is how we deploy it. So we can use either the site editor to deploy, or we can manually add it to the website using the HTML as well. So now we can sort of set up our custom signal, Daisy.
Hey, just whilst we're in the slot, there is a rule that I would always pretty much recommend using. Obviously, if we're putting out a data capture, we're asking for people's email address, and there's just no point doing it for people we already have identified. So we have this, it's like Carol Vorderman over here. So here's the identified rule, and you can just drag that into the tree. And essentially, yes, so you build it out. So if someone is identified, you would show no content. If they're not identified, then you'd show that data capture. So it just means as well, you could make sure that you're not giving people irrelevant information. And it also, you don't have to show no content to those who you've identified. Perhaps you have a popover with recommendations of what they've recently browsed or new in products. So you can leverage that sort of space, that marketing space, for more appropriate messages.
Just as an example. So yeah, that's a really good use case. And thank you for reminding me on that one.
No worries.
So now we've got that all set up, we can go over to our triggers page and start to create our custom signal. So I'm going to click on triggers here. And it will bring up eventually. Been a little bit slow today.
I think it's something with running Google Meets, because I've been having this problem. It seems fine when we're not on a call.
Yeah. Hey, there we go. So now we are in the triggers page. What we're going to do is we're going to click on manage custom signals just here. And then as you can see here, we've got a lot of that have already been built within the demo store. Don't worry, on your account, there won't be this many options down here. We don't think, but we're going to navigate to the bottom left-hand corner. I'm going to click on create custom signal. Don't worry about this. This literally caught me out very earlier, but this one's just a little warning because what we can do with custom signals is raise anything. So for example, if someone's abandoned a specific area of a website and you want to send out an email off that, we can send that out instead. So don't worry about this little message here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a name. So I'm going to call it WD data capture. I'm just going to copy that so I can use it later. And then I'm going to click on register here. Then once that's loaded, there we go. We're going to get this blank box here where we can add in a trigger program. So we're going to click on add trigger program here, and then we're going to want to create a brand new one. So essentially what we're going to be doing is we're going to send something over to your email service provider to tell them to add this email to a specific field list. So as you can see up the top, we have custom set field add to list. And what we can do is we can give this program a name. I'm going to call it the same WD data capture. And then I'm going to only run for custom. I don't think this is necessary, is it, Daisy?
No, I think that's a hangover from the old UI.
Yeah, cool. Then also we have the wait time here. So this is something that's part of triggered emails, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. And then here's the important bit. This is the action channel. So within your Fresh Relevance platform, we'll have everything set up for you. So for example, let's say your email service provider is, let's go for Actito, for example. Let's say that's your email service provider. We're going to set that up. And then within your email service provider, there will be a list, hopefully. This is something you'll have to set up on that side. And essentially what we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding all of the emails that come through this data capture into that field. So, for example, this could be for your newsletter signups, this could be for a competition or anything like that. And then within that list, there'll be an associated ID. And that ID you're going to have to put into here. So, for example, that could be a number like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or it could be something else. If you need some help, have a chat with your support team. I'm going to guess on your ESP side. And then also, if you need some help setting this up, our support team can help you once you have the information. Now we have all that set up, what we can do is we can scroll down and save the trigger program.
So there is just one thing to mention in here, actually, when we're talking about the channel. So you'll already have channels set up from your triggered email campaigns. That's how we know how to send emails to different people. And on that channel, there are several settings. And one of those settings is what you do with people who have previously unsubscribed. So your triggered email campaigns by default won't resubscribe people to your lists if they do an abandonment. So those won't get sent. That's generally how we see it set up. So you might want to create a new channel. You basically copy and paste all the settings, but that one re-engagement option, you might want to resubscribe customers if they have previously unsubscribed. So that's just something else to consider. I don't know how big the volumes are of people unsubscribing and then resubscribing, but just to make sure you take advantage of that group of people.
Great. Thanks, Daisy. This is where her expertise and knowledge far supersedes mine. Okay, so we're going to add the trigger program we just made into the field by dragging and dropping it in. And now what this will be doing is once people fill in this form, it will send it back to your ESP. But what we need to do is we need to tailor this form again. So we're going to go back to our content and back to our smart blocks. And I'm going to find the one we literally just made, which we can see here. And then what we can do is we can go back to the behavior tab, and this little field here, we're going to insert the custom signal that we just created, and I'm going to press on publish, and then that is ready to use. Does that all make sense from everyone? No sort of questions?
No, it makes sense, that, yeah.
Nice. Georgia, Sarah Valen?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Nice. Anything to add on to that one, Daisy?
Yeah, so I guess particularly because Daryl's on the call, the other option is that you can embed forms within the layout. So if there is already a form with more fields or something like that you want to play around with, that's something you can absolutely code into Fresh Relevance. And you can also have the form directly submit in the code rather than the triggered campaign piece. We've got documentation about both approaches, the one we're showing today and the more technical one, so we'll send that around after the call, but I just wanted to make sure you're aware that that flexibility is there. The other thing I would just draw your attention to is the cookie name for the popover at the bottom here. So by default, this is probably just going to put news pop-up in. And this is how we decide that first option up there, the minimum time between data captures. It's based on that cookie. So let's say you've got a data capture that's popping over with an email capture, so what we're talking about today, and then you've got another one that's recommendations. If those have the same cookie name, they could start repressing each other. So you just want to make sure that you keep that cookie name unique unless you're trying to run it on the same schedule. So it's not a problem if you've just got the one firing, but if you start to build out other pop-ups, different mechanisms, abandonment popovers are great for people who've already got items in their cart, for example. So we wouldn't want to prevent that from displaying. And then the final thing that I just like to talk about is in terms of best practices and when is the right time to ask for someone's email, when is the right time. If you're like me, I'm constantly dismissing email popovers because for me, they come up way too early in my journey. They come up before I've really known what the brand does, whether it's one that I'd want to receive regular contact from. So there's definitely a few things to think about. Will's obviously touched upon the exit intent versus the fixed delay. But there's also some really cool slot rules you can use to make sure that they only appear to certain people. Well, amazing, thank you. One of them I only found last week, actually, which is why I'm so excited to talk about it. And Will is definitely nodding with boredom because I've brought it up on too many meetings that he's been on. But in that rules section, there's a few things we can do. One thing being looking at the actual page someone is on. So that's under the current page and then you've got things like page type or the actual URLs. So, you might not want it to come up on your home page, for example, but only on product pages. Or I guess any pages where you have high abandonment might be a good one to use. The other thing, if I feel like you're like air hostessing for me, Will, this is great. Then if you go to the
Loving
current
this.
session one, we've got a few things in there. Things like view page count is really nice. So this is the new one. So, do we want to make sure that people have looked at least 5 pages before we give them that popover? Because you can assume at that point they've got a good feel for who you are as a brand. So I guess the thing to think about is partially those sort of numbers, but also the quality of the signups. By repressing to sort of smaller groups like this, you're probably not going to get as much volume of signups because we're not sending it to as many people, but the quality of those signups are likely to be higher because they've been more engaged with your brand. And it might be, that after 5 pages you want a fixed delay, whereas everyone else you just try and catch them as they're exiting the website. So there's a good mix of tactics you can use in different sort of combinations there. The other thing just to draw your attention to, again, it's the current session, Will, and it's the first page visited rule. So you can use this to identify people from maybe like PPC traffic sources by using those queries at the end. So, you've already paid to get them to the site, so let's make sure that we're trying our hardest to get their email address so we have something for that transaction. So there's just a few ideas. As always with Fresh Relevance, you can do a million billion things. So if you've got any other ideas of how you'd perhaps want to target customers, then do shout.
No.
Fab.
No, I've not got any from mine right now. For me.
So
No,
I guess
neither have
another
I.
question for Georgia then. Do you feel more confident going away and working on that piece now?
Yeah, I can try the fixed position capture bar, see if that works, and then see if that works for us, and so I'm not having to like do a load of code that I've absolutely no idea how to do. So
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like I said, we'll send you over those copies. The other thing to consider is, as Will mentioned, the services part. So if there isn't a template that meets what you're looking for, then our team can build one out. They're amazing. If I don't mind blowing their own trumpet, but yeah, they're really great. Some of the stuff that they've built is just amazing. So yeah, that's always an option for you as well.
okay.
Or make friends with Dahl. He knows how to code. So start moonlighting on hand dryers.
Danielle will not be happy.
Yeah, I
David
said
Courtney.
nothing. Oh, and then you remember this session's recorded, damn it.
Cool. Well, I mean, there is still 28 minutes left to go. Just like last week, we're sort of underrunning. So, anything that anyone wants to chat about, we can sort of pick it up as well. Or I think people probably want to get 28 minutes back in their day.
I guess there's one other. Oh, go ahead, Dal.
Oh no, just to say I've got no pressing questions right now.
I guess the other thing then, just to get you guys thinking, is in terms of how can we optimize this? How can we make sure we're getting the most out of our content? If you do have the advanced testing and optimization module, you'll be able to use either A/B testing that has goals in it, or the multi-arm bandit. I'll let my little demonstration catch up. But what the multi-arm bandit and other goal-related content means that it's going to be specifically looking at identifying the most rather than revenue or basket size, which of course isn't exactly what we're measuring the success of a data capture on. Something like that's just going to whiz them around, or you can do split tests and measure the sign-up rates manually. In terms of what to optimize, so definitely all of the timing elements that we just spoke about. So if you're doing, well, fixed delay versus exit intent, for example, how long a fixed delay, what, all of the sort of layout stuff, CTAs, those sorts of things, but also what sort of messaging and incentive you use. And it doesn't have to be a monetary incentive, but what is the intrinsic value of that sign up? Why should they sign up to you? And you would not believe how much things like a couple of words can change. I think one of my colleagues shared an article and someone had put on the cart page, they'd just advertised that they do free returns, and their conversions tanked by 11% just by adding that wording onto the cart page. So, it's always great to test these things, because things you wouldn't even expect to have an impact can have quite the butterfly effects there. So yeah, we have actually got a blog about optimizing data capture as well that we can send over to you for when you get there. And then actually there's one other thing that I really meant to mention and I forgot. That is when we talk about the sort of data capture we have and exit intent, they are only desktop applicable. You need to have a mouse, because we trigger that exit intent by them going towards that address bar or the cross at the top of the screen. Mobile, you don't have that because we can't be tracking people's eyes. If you're like me, you have about 120 different browser tabs. So technically, I'm still shopping on all of those websites. So it means exit intent just doesn't work. So if that's the primary method you're going to capture data, then you're missing out on a huge, huge number of customers. From sort of the people I chat to, we're looking at anything from 60 to 70% of customers using mobiles now. I'm sure higher, probably for you, Dal. Georgia, do you tend to still be desktop, being as it's more B2B?
I mean, we still get a lot of orders on mobile, because it's just easier if they're out of work time. It's just a website that you can buy products from, so it'll probably be easy to just buy on mobile as well. So
yeah, so definitely something that you should both be considering then. And this is where our new slot rule comes into place. So we can now provide different content to customers based on the device they're viewing it on. So if you go under person at the top, then we have the current device rule. And then in there, you can select all sorts of things, as simple as mobile versus PC. Also, if you've ever sent email content, you know that can be a bit of a tricky one in Fresh. So this is going to resolve some of that for you at the same time. But we can also look at things like the OS they're using, and also their email provider. So, all of this iOS drama that we've had in the last sort of year in terms of open rates and things like that. Again, we can start being more sensitive and targeting on those. So yeah, definitely something to consider if you are basing your sort of approach on exit intent, is just how we make sure that mobile is still being capitalized on.
Thank you. One last thing actually will be deployment. I sort of brushed over it, but let's show you how to do it anyway. We can click on the Use tab on the slot. And we're going to use the site editor. This is sort of going through a revamp. Daisy, I don't know if you know roughly when we're expecting it to be fully launched.
No.
But at some point in the future, it will be sort of relaunched. However, nice and easy to use still. We can click on the site editor button here, and then we can deploy our slot nice and easily onto the website from there. So as you can see, WD Data Capture is here on the left-hand side under slots. What I can do is I can simply drag and drop it, and it will find exactly where it will work. Now it's got to look for a green. Put it there, maybe. There we go. Just trying to find where it's gone. There's a lot on this website, so it's a little bit messy.
Do you
It
mind if
shouldn't
I
be that
hop in on this one a sec, Will?
Yeah.
So before deploying a data capture, it's a bit different from our other content because it doesn't really sit where you deploy it. It's always going to sit and overlay on the screen, with the exception, Georgia, of what you're trying to achieve. But our normal popovers will appear across screen. So really your consideration should be, where do you want this to show in terms of locations? Generally, you're going to want it to be whole site wide. So the best thing you want to do is put it in somewhere like your header or your footer. So an element that exists on every page of your website. So yeah, well, if you just put it up in maybe above the icon in the top left, see if it can go in there. Yeah, beautiful. So there we go, we've popped it on the home page, but how do we make it appear on all your other pages as well? So this unfortunately is hidden under an advanced setting. So if you just click on, if you go down, Will, yeah, where it says advanced, beautiful. And then where it says page type, we can see it says this page only. So you'd want to change it to whatever pages you wanted that to be extended to. Whilst we're here, things like using this for the product details pages, there's going to be a way you can get recs under every product image. Same with list pages. So targeting pages in this way can be super effective for getting your content out to multiple pages at the same time.
Nice. Thank you. This is where, again, Daisy's expertise trumps mine's. But we can then press publish and it will go live onto the website. We can also press preview and we can see exactly what it will look like. So hopefully it will pop up. What I've done, it probably won't. Not in my luck, but yeah, that's now live on the website. So yeah, cool. Any questions for anyone? No. Georgia? No. Well, I'm going to say let's have 20 minutes back of our day. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And I will be in touch with you very, very shortly with sort of some nice links to some how-to guides, a blog post as well about optimizing and other bits and bobs as well.